In this video, we're going to be looking at temp table persistence. These tables are temporary, but they do persist for a little while anyway. And we're going to be looking at the difference between how that is true or how that takes place in just writing something from the T-SQL command line, or if you're instead running a stored procedure. Let me just run these couple of lines of code real quick. I'm just going to be doing a select into a temp table called Archie, for Archie Bunker, from customer types, and then we're just going to select from Archie. So let's run that, and wait a minute, we are in the Acme database, okay? So we're going to run that, and you notice that it does what we want it to. It selected all these massive records from the customer type lookup table. Now, what happens when I run this again? You know, because we're trying to run and create and select into really any table, it doesn't like when we do that the second time in a row, because this table Archie is already existing in the temp database. We won't take time to look at it. But let's say that you wanted to run this over and over again. You know, maybe either you're bored or you're actually looping through something in real life. How can you do that? Let me just pull something up here. What you could do, let me just run this one time to actually drop that table. See, now, if I wanted to do this repeatedly, if I say select into Archie for blah, 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 if I do drop table Archie when I'm done, see, okay, there's the records. Now, if I run this again, now, of course, there's no error. You know, wonderful, so I have a drop table. But then that means that you have to have a drop table if you want this to happen. Whereas, instead, if I was just, because it's a temp table and it's tied to the connection, all I have to do is close this window, and then Archie would also go away without me having to do this. But that doesn't help if I need to do this multiple times from this window. Here's maybe a slightly different way of looking at this. What I'm going to do is instead, I'm going to comment out what we just did, and I'm going to uncomment this next part, and it's a little more advanced, but basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looping. I have a counter and a count. I'm setting it to 5. Oh, and you know what? It's probably a good idea to set the counter to 1. Otherwise, this will run forever, and I get to record an infinite loop. It'll take a while. Okay, so basically this is going to iterate through 5 times. So it's an actual loop, a real-world example of something you might do. You probably wouldn't be doing this in your loop, something a little more, you know, meaningful. But basically, if I run this, it's going to basically create this table and select from it 5 times. This window is going to be loaded up. We won't be able to see them all. And it's going to drop it each time. So if we do that, it's going to go select, 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 select. So there's basically 5 selects that have been done. 1, 2, 3, and it looks like it's keep going because I did not increment the counter. Let me start that over. Did you see that? It really did make an infinite loop because Davey did not do that. Let me run it again. Yeah, there's already an object. Yeah, I get that. Okay, guess I cut it off. Okay, let's do this now. Okay, so now it looks like it ran correctly. Yay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It went through 5 times. Big deal. But that's only because, well, because I put the increment for the counter and that helped. It didn't go a million times. But also, it's able to happen because there's a drop table. Now, let's take that out and watch it crash. Bam! It went through the first time, and then the second time it just got nailed because it can't do it. We take this off, we'll probably get another error because the table's already there. So we have to do a drop. This is another thing, when you're playing around with loops and temp tables, once you think you got it right, you'll still get one more error because you have to run one more drop. It's kind of a pain in the neck. But now, yay, we can do this all day. Now, here's something a little different. Let's comment this out, as we like the color green. Let me just switch over here for a minute. I'll show you this stored procedure. It's basically similar. It's just going to start out, we're going to select star into, oh look, instead of Archie it's Edith. So we're selecting into this table from customer types, and then we're going to do a select. It's really straightforward. So basically, If we were to do this, let's open this up and then close this. Let's just look at what this stored procedure will do one time, and it's going to just look like one of these sets of results. So you're basically just going to get the results again because we exec the stored procedure. But in this case, here's the question. If I'm looping through this 5 times and each time all I'm doing is running this procedure where it creates a temp table and selects from it, won't we have the same problem where it gets an error? In other words, under the exec, shouldn't we do something like drop table? Or in the stored procedure, shouldn't we have another line below the select that says drop table edif? Shouldn't we do that? Well, here's the thing. Here's what's different about T-SQL and stored procedures. Watch this. This is pretty cool. Okay. It's execing, but it's not showing us. Oh, I think I have one more piece of code exposed down here. Nope. Nope. What else is going on? Well, for some reason, oh, it's maybe going on forever. Oh, I know what's going on. We have 2 mistakes here. It's never executing because, you know, the condition is never true. I did this in a hurry. Okay, here we go. Yay. Okay, so now it ran 5 times. Yay. That's kind of what we were expecting and not expecting, but here's the question. Why on earth did we not have to put a drop table? We didn't put a drop table in here, and we didn't put a drop table even after this. If we needed it, either case would have been fine. But when we ran the T-SQL statement strictly, we had to. Why is that different? That's not fair. Usually, stored procedures are more trouble than T-SQL. But in this case, it's like a freebie. What is different about the stored procedure? When we do this exec, think about it as, you know, we have a connection with this window open. We're connected to SQL Server. However, when we run this exec, kind of think of it as that stored procedure kind of initiating its own connection with SQL Server. I don't know, it doesn't like us or something. But when it does that, when it runs through here and then it gets to end, this table that was created only lasts as long as this connection. So once it creates it, does it select, whatever else, gets its nails done, whatever it does, once it gets to the word end, it's finished. When the stored procedure is done, that temp table is done. What's different is when you're doing the stuff that we did up here straight from the command line, just in T-SQL, it's not done because this connection stays open as long as this window is open. Whereas the connection for the stored procedure just is open as long as the stored procedure is open. So with stored procedures, you get the one added benefit that when the stored procedure is done, the temp table just gets blown away without you having to do anything. It's basically on death row. It can't get a stay of execution. Its lawyer couldn't do squat for it. It's not getting out of it. The stored procedure ends. Temp table junior goes bye-bye. So that's the difference. In persistence, stored procedure cleans it up for you. At the command line, if you're doing it more than once, you got to use a drop table or you can't play.